pictures like this certainly generating a lot of anger and frustration across the board here. And I want to go now to a friend of Scott Olson, that injured veteran that you saw, also a fellow Iraq War veteran herself. Her name's Emily Yates. First off, Emily, I guess I just want to ask if you have an update for us about your friend, Scott Olson.
Well, yes, the last I've heard is that Scott is now in fair condition, upgraded, yay, breathing on his own, but it seems like he's going to need surgery to remove some of the pressure from his brain.
What was your reaction, the reaction of other veterans that you've spoken with over the last 24 hours to see this video? I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure Scott was even wearing a veteran's T-shirt when this happened. What has been the conversation about the fact that this happened?
Well, first, Scott was, in fact, wearing a Veterans for Peace T-shirt, which I think makes all of this even more ironic. But the veterans community is just completely horrified that this has happened to Scott, and that this could happen to anybody, but especially to a veteran. It just goes to show that the reaction of law enforcement to this protest was to kind of fire indiscriminately rather than actually look for individuals causing trouble and attempt to root them out.
Let's talk about the relationships of people who serve together in the military. It seems to me, especially for those who have served in combat zones, even if not at the same time, but just who have done it, there's a certain understanding, a camaraderie, a loyalty that develops between and among those who serve in the military. Talk to me about this and how you think that could have something to do with the reaction that we're seeing to Scott's injuries.
Yeah, there is a stronger bond among vets than almost any other group of people that I've been a part of, for sure, to the extent that as you've seen the response from vets, like, we don't even need to know, like, people don't need to know anything about Scott in order to support him, because we've had this shared experience. We've gone to combat zones for many long months at a time, and come home and we're now transitioning. We're now going from one complete mindset of basically just being prepared to die at any moment. I mean, not to be blunt, but yeah, I think being blunt is necessary right now. Once you're in that situation with somebody, it doesn't matter, what his politics are, how he treats his mother. All you know is that person is your community. We were each other's community and family while we were in the military, and we need to keep being each other's family. And I think that's what vets have been reflecting in the past 48 hours since this has happened to Scott.
A lot of people seem to be reflecting sort of on the irony as well. This is a man who served our country 2 tours in Iraq, returned home without physical injuries, and yet we see this that happened in California, USA. I want to play some video from yesterday. I believe this happened after the news of the police raid in Oakland and of Scott Olson's injuries came down. These protesters, it's dark, it's nighttime, but what they're saying is New York is Oakland, Oakland is New York. They're showing solidarity with you guys in Oakland. Some people even were seen holding signs that say, "We are all Scott Olson." I'm wondering if you have any idea. I mean, is Scott aware of the reaction that his injuries have generated from across the country?
As far as I know, he is still not able to communicate with people, so I'm not sure what his reaction is. But I do know that Scott his situation has shown that there needs to be strength in solidarity, because otherwise individuals are going to keep getting harmed. And we can't, if we're all standing together, I know it sounds cliche, but if we're all standing together, we can't all be taken down, and we need to all be looking out for one another. And I think that Scott's passion, just the fact that Scott was there and was there in uniform with a Veterans for Peace T-shirt, and he works, he has a job, he's not sitting around on his ass all day. He's contributing in every way that a person can contribute. I wasn't even down there. I now I'm gonna friggin' be down there. You can bet your ass. But he's his passion should be inspiration enough, and especially in light of the reward that he got for his passion.
Emily, I want to talk about media coverage of this movement. This movement's certainly been going on for about a month and a half now. There is one cable network that seems to make it clear that they support the wars and the military and our troops. I'm talking about Fox News, of course. And yet I want to play what they've been saying, at least leading up to the last few days, about the Occupy Wall Street protests.
It is a classic mob uprising. It's utterly incoherent. They're always left-wing and completely destructive.
We got all kinds of crackheads down there. What are we doing?
Well, they're not crackheads. They're the soft drugs, Bill.
Hey, you can't make this stuff up. They're passing out free condoms. There's been open sex going on there. Drugs easy to score.
They are certainly unified. They're certainly coordinated, and they have been behind getting these mostly kids and aging hippies out there.
They hate corporations, they hate capitalism, and in the end, ultimately, they want statism over free markets. So they really don't like freedom.
As a military veteran, Emily, I just want to get your reaction to this.
I think it's laughable that these people are allowed to have public opinions, but at the same time, everybody's allowed to have a public opinion. So that's, they can say what they want to say. It won't make it true. It won't make it something that has any real rational foundation. But maybe if they keep saying things like this, it can only keep being untrue. And
who knows, maybe it will change now that we are seeing so many more military veterans come out. I want to play one more thing. On his radio show, Sean Hannity actually told a protester that because she's protesting, she doesn't believe in liberty or in freedom. And we found this on YouTube, someone asking a few other veterans to respond to what Hannity said on his radio show. I'll show you what they said, and then I'll get your response.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest load of I've ever heard. Everybody here loves this country and wants to see it grow and wants to see it better.
Is there anything that you specifically would tell him if he was here standing in front of you?
I'll tell him off. That's what I would tell him.
What do you think about this? I mean, people are starting to ask, they're starting to see veterans there, they're starting to ask them for their take on this.
Basically, my opinion is the role of the media is to be a voice that spreads truth and factual information. And I feel like anybody who's not doing that, who's promoting an agenda, who is, who knows what drives people who are ostensibly rational adults to claim that veterans don't love their country. I think that in and of itself should be enough to discredit anything that comes after that. It's kind of like saying, the sky is purple. And then saying, but what do you think about things going on in the world? Let's talk about that from an informed point of view. That was a really bad metaphor.
No, I see what you're saying. I want to talk about one more thing with you, though, while we have you. And this is a reality that I think that should be addressed. A lot of veterans, when they do come home, certainly have trouble finding jobs. But a lot of veterans take up jobs in the police force. So I think with Occupy Wall Street, we're going to see, and most likely we have seen, the fact that a lot of people on the other side of the barricades, the police officers, are also veterans. Is this something that, your fellow veterans, that you are aware of, that you've discussed? Do you think it makes a difference?
I think that any discussion that is based in logic and reason and true, knowledge of what's going on here, I think discussion should be encouraged always. Yeah, some people just aren't going to hear And
I mean, is it disheartening to know that possibly some of these police, certainly there's hundreds of police in New York, that there's a very good chance that some of those police are also veterans?
Yeah, there's a reluctance to identify with them, and that it is possible that there are former military vets on the police force. It's one of the jobs that a lot of my old Army buddies said they were going to try and get when they got out. So yeah, I think that more empathy should be encouraged, and more relating. I guess discussion needs to include our similarities with the people who are on both sides of this, and I don't know. I feel like if people are really thinking about the job that they're doing, any law enforcement person who shoots someone, if they say, if it's in their job, they say, well, I'm just doing my job. But I think that if you're thinking about your job and you're thinking about why you're doing what you're doing, then it should be easy to not fire.
Yeah, especially since a lot of these protesters seem to be pretty peaceful. Emily Yates, Iraq War veteran, also friend of Scott Olson, who was injured in Oakland just a few days ago.